Recently, the former governor of South Carolina and Donald Trump's ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, said something in an interview that shocked and angered both people on the left and people on the right. Now, some might ask, in today's divided society, how could you ever say anything that would anger both sides? Well, she did. Unfortunately, however, she is absolutely 110% correct. And the governor of Florida tried to take her to task on it. And in this particular case, I know everybody thinks I'm a huge fan. I am a fan of Governor DeSantis. But in this case, as with a couple of others, he is wrong and she is right. Primarily, I believe this stems from her having had access to information that he has never seen. She was Donald Trump's ambassador to the UN. It would have given her clearance to see things and have access to information that as the governor of Florida, he would have never been able to see. Now, I'm sure he probably would pass the same background check she would as far as what level of clearance would be allowed. But when it comes to information, especially at government level, there's need to know. There's things that she would have had need to know that he wouldn't have. I honestly believe that if he had access to that information on this topic, he would change his mind immediately. Now, we're going to cover that. Why are we going to cover that? This topic is going to be something that pertains to everybody who uses the internet, no matter who you are. Real quick, thank you. God bless all of you. You're making a huge, huge difference in my life, both here at YouTube and over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. I always want to stop. I always want to say thank you before we get into the meat of the video. The Patreon channel is now standing in the breach. Things that are happening right here on this platform. I know you're hearing and you're seeing a lot more videos of people talking about this, people leaving the platform. You see, there are people leaving the platform. That's true. But guess who isn't leaving the platform? The robots. Pretending to be people. That's what you got to watch out for. Now, if you'd like to join us at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel, where there are 0 robots, it's only $1 per month, even less if you sign up for an entire year, fully refundable, first 90 days, hundreds of videos, posting going all the way back 2018 and 19, all sorts of subjects. There is a $5 level. There's a handful of videos over there. The next one we're going to do, though, is going to be for the $5 folks, and full warning, there's going to be some imagery there that's going to shock some people, because it shows how there are folks who have learned how to manipulate the robot armies, and this is why Nikki Haley is absolutely correct. Now, let me ask you a question. How many of you ever had the experience where just having had a thought, you see what you thought about reflected online through your social media, someplace that you were surfing? It's the end of the night, let's say, and you're turning in, you power off your phone, and you plug it into the charger, you put it on the charger, down in the kitchen, because you don't want it anywhere near you when you're sleeping. You go upstairs to bed. You get ready for bed. It's kind of chilly, so you're like, you know what, I'm going to put on some warm socks. And you go grab a pair of socks out of the drawer, and you put one on, and your toe goes through the hole, goes through the end of it, and creates a hole. And you're like, oh, well, that's annoying. I guess tomorrow, you think to yourself, I'm going to have to, if I go to the store, see if I can find some place to grab a pair of socks. Next morning, you go down, grab your phone, power it on, and then lo and behold, you're looking around online, and all of a sudden you're starting to see ads for socks. Ads for things to keep you warm at night and cozy. How in the world did this happen? Well, I'll be honest with you, it's a very creepy thing, in the sense that these robot armies have herded actual human beings into certain behaviors, predictable behaviors. A lot of people believe, well, I'm not a sheep, I'm not cattle, I'm not. The armies have already done this. We've all been herded. We've all been forced, I guess, for lack of a better term, into certain behaviors that we don't even recognize that make us all very predictable. Now, I'd like to show you something here on the Florida Maquis homepage. You can go here and this is where it says home, and it'll show you a video of my choosing, and then it will curate a series of videos that YouTube thinks you should watch. Okay? Now, you can click videos, and then you can actually see chronologically the videos that have actually been posted, and you can see the difference. You go to hover over one, and it'll show you an image. Like this is from yesterday's video. This one here, though, the day before yesterday, Global Mind Web Online. Funny, you hover over it, nothing happens. It's because it's demonetized. It's because it's being shadow banned. The rest of these videos, no problem. Now, why this one? Well, you see, they didn't give me a reason why they demonetized it. They just don't want you seeing it. Now, what does this have to do with Nikki Haley? What does this have to do with Ron DeSantis? What if you found out that the Florida Maquis channel that has 130,000 subscribers was really only controlled by 13 people that had created 10,000 fake accounts and all subscribed to the channel? There was only 13 people accounting for all 130,000 subscribers. What would you do? Well, of course, you'd call me, and rightfully so, you'd call me a fake, a fraud, and a phony. You'd say, well, you don't have actually 130,000 real people following you. Well, nobody who creates a channel has any control over who does and who doesn't subscribe. That's a YouTube thing. Now, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, what was said? Nikki Haley said, allowing people to post and conduct activities on social media anonymously is a national security threat. Her quote, every person on social media should be verified by their name. It gets rid of Russian bots, Iranian bots, and Chinese bots. And she wants all of these major platforms to make public their algorithms to see what they're pushing. I would be all for this. Florida Maquis, wait a minute. Your name isn't Florida Maquis. What's your real name? If they made this, I would publish my channel under my real name if everybody else had to as well. Now, the governor of Florida, but I'm not going to do it. I have a check mark by my name because Alphabet, Google, YouTube, they made me verify with them who I am. And they know my name, they know my address, they know my phone number, they know my social security number, they know my driver's license number, they know all that stuff. They know I'm a real person, they know I'm not a bot. Now, the governor of Florida said, you know who were anonymous writers back in the day? Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison. When they wrote the Federalist Papers, they were not quote-unquote national security threats, nor are the many conservative Americans, blah, 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 blah. Okay. An incredibly poor example to use for this, number one. Number two, when Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison wrote the Federalist Papers, they wrote it under what they called Publius. And there was no nation at that time. It was published in 1787, 1788. And there would have been no persecution for them publishing it anonymously because the war was already over. The war was over 1776, 1777. It was 10 years later, so there would have been no persecution from England at this time. The reason the authors of the Federalist Papers wrote it under a nom de plume was to influence people to adopt a national constitution. Now, what if I told you these people here didn't even want you to have a Bill of Rights? Wait, Florida Maquis, that can't be right. They've said so many great things about guns. They didn't want an enumerated Bill of Rights. You see, they published under the name Publius for a reason. It was an influence operation. It was attempting to influence people. It wasn't just them speaking their mind. They were trying to get New York to ratify the Constitution. The U.S. Constitution. Now, ever heard of the moral sayings of Publius Syrus, the Roman slave? See, this was common education back then amongst the educated. They knew the sayings. For example, as men, we're all equal in the presence of death. Everyone excels in something in which another fails. Friendship either finds or makes equals. The loss of a friend is the greatest of all. Just these basic, a wise man rules his passions, a fool obeys them. A good reputation, even in darkness, keeps on. This was all basic wisdom at the time that everybody knew. So when they used the name Publius, they were trying to give themselves fake credibility. They were trying to give, because if they'd have published under their names, everybody at the time would have said, oh, we know who these people are, and we know what their position is. Now, all of you Federalist Papers fans, wait until you hear this. In Federalist number 84, and you can look this up, Hamilton makes the case that there is no need to amend the Constitution by adding a Bill of Rights. That's where your Second Amendment is. Insisting that the various provisions in the proposed Constitution protecting liberty amount to a de facto Bill of Rights. Federalist number 78, also written by Hamilton, lays the groundwork for the doctrine of judicial review, basically saying that a federal court can override the will of the people. A federal court can override the will of the people. And you can read this for yourself. And a lot of people have tried to make the anti-federalists out to be the forerunners of the modern day tyranny. Is exactly quite the opposite. See, it was these folks here, the anti-federalists, that said we need to enumerate in words the specific rights that we want people to have enshrined, one of those being the Second Amendment on the Bill of Rights. We need to write this down. And the reason the Federalists didn't want that to be the case was they thought, well, if we only enumerate those, then that will, at some point in the future, be a reason people will say that, well, because it's not listed here, then it isn't. And so that's what was going on back then. So for the governor to use this as some type of an argument against what's happening now online is just disingenuous. Because nobody is, believe me, if they took all the bots offline, you would be shocked. Because there are a lot of people out there that don't have a secret that they don't want you to know. That they're not nearly as popular as what you would think they are. And they've created their channels on YouTube, they've created their channels on Instagram, and all of Facebook using bots. This channel never has. This channel never has. There used to be a thing, and ask your favorite YouTuber, ask either Gen Vets for Truth, ask BP Earthwatch, or Southern Prepper 1, or Patriot Nurse, ask them if you don't believe me. Once a year, YouTube used to go through, and they used to get rid of, they used to sift through everybody's subscribers to see how many were real and how many were not. And a lot of channels would complain, oh my gosh, YouTube just took away half my subscribers, because half their subscribers were bots that they had put there. And that never affected my channel. It never affected my channel in the least. And I was like, why are people so upset about that? There was one time they did a sift. I had 20,000 subscribers, and I went down to like 118 or 119. It was really no big deal. But there were some channels that got catastrophically destroyed because they used these purchase things where they could buy subscribers. Now, a lot of people we get all this, Mickey. I still don't understand why were there bots ever created if they were so bad from the beginning? Why were they ever created? Well, they weren't always bad. The robot armies weren't always bad. Now, here's the best example that I can get for this. How many of you know what these little fish are swimming underneath a shark? A lot of people think they're lampreys. They're not. They're remoras. Well, what's the difference? Remoras live in a symbiotic relationship with the shark. They just attach themselves underneath. They don't suck the blood of the shark. And they clean the parasites from underneath the side of the shark. And whenever the shark feeds, they detach and they go eat the scraps. So the shark does something for them. They do something for the shark. This is what bots used to be like on the internet back in the very early days of the internet, is that they used to kind of help things along and clean things up a little bit and make your experience online, since a lot of times early in the internet, who remembers dial-up and how long it took to get online and how just getting pictures to load took for freaking ever, and how you just didn't have that much time to waste. Now, this is a sea lamprey. They kind of look like remoras, but they're something out of a nightmare. They start out really small. Really, really tiny. Even tinier than this. And they attach themselves, and their only goal is to destroy the fish. Their only goal is to destroy the fish. Once that fish is dead, they'll move on to the next one. There's no symbiosis whatsoever. And that's what these Iranian bots and Chinese bots and Russian bots are doing. That's why right now on YouTube, it is virtually impossible to start a new channel. Virtually impossible. There are these lamprey-like robot armies that will attach on, that know what the algorithms push and know what they don't. And if it's something that the Chinese or the Iranians or the Russians don't want you to see, don't want you to support, don't want you to like, they will destroy that channel. And there's nothing you can do about it. See, when we think about armies, we think 1 army, 2 armies, 3 armies. There are hundreds of thousands of different armies, all making alliances, going at each other, destroying each other, reconstituting, grabbing onto each other. And they don't know what to do about it. They truly don't. Because they know if they would do the right thing, it would cause catastrophic financial mayhem. Because so many things are slave to this. So many businesses count on these. And if they got rid of it, if they got rid of all of the Russian and Chinese and Iranian influence online, even especially here, and I know all you folks out there are still typing about Parler and BitChute and Rumble, and trust me, ask anybody who's been over there about what it's like over there versus what it used to be like on YouTube. See, a lot of people think, well, I just want my right to speak. I just want my right to speak. If that were the case, then let me ask you a question. Why didn't the authors of the Federalist Papers, it was just about their right to speak, why didn't they just publish under their names? Pardon me. Why didn't they just publish under their names? There was going to be no persecution from England. There was no federal government at the time. There had been no adoption of a constitution. In fact, the reason they wrote the papers was to try to influence the adoption of the national constitution, the U.S. Constitution. See, the reason they didn't publish under their names is because they knew if they published under a name people were familiar with, like Publius, like from Publius Syrus, a lot more people would take what they believed to be something that was evidence of more wisdom and not just the opinion of 3 guys. It was really the opinion of one guy. It was one guy who influenced 2 others, and they all wrote papers, and then they put it under a nom de plume. And that's why we have a U.S. Constitution, and that's why we have, if it had not been for them, the Anti-Federalists, there would be no Bill of Rights. So, just wanted to cover this and let you know what's really going on. I'll ask the question again. If it was just about their right to speak, why didn't they publish under their names? There are people out there right now that think that and the governor's fallen for this, unfortunately. So you can find the picture here. Hold on. The governor's fallen for this. See, he thinks that if they would go after the bots and make everybody verify online, that somehow that would be damaging and detrimental to conservatives. Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't, but it would be the truth. It would be the truth. In fact, I think it would actually harm the left more than it would harm the right. Seeing these algorithms and letting everybody see that and getting rid of all of this, I think it would change things dramatically. And she's absolutely right. She's 110% right, and this case governor's just wrong. And it really has more to do with information that she has that he doesn't. So, like I said, I hope this doesn't get shadow banned. If you see a title, if you see a thumbnail that, gosh, that seems very different than the content of the video, now you know why. It is war. We are literally at war online right now. To get any kind of traction, to get any kind of push on this. Lisa Haven just did a big expose on this about what's going on over at Restricted Republic and she even went through and showed her own behind the scenes, her own analytics page, where when her channel was way smaller, way tinier, she was getting 10 times the numbers she's getting now. And it's because of the bots. Iranian, Chinese, and Russian bots. So I will leave that there. Once again, no bots. No bots. Just the real deal. Patreon, only $1 a month. Only $1. That's it. And once again, even less if you sign up for an entire year. And fully refundable first 90 days. First $3 that you'd spend. November, December, January. Fully refundable by February. So that's all you would have to lose. Hundreds and hundreds of videos. Would make a huge difference in my life. God bless all of you. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. God bless. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.